Good evening, everybody. It's December 18th, 2023, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow City Council, also the last meeting of the year. So, Maureen.
Let's all stand up and do the pledge of allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, Maureen. Next up is the consent agenda, and this consists of items that are non-controversial or routine that have been previously vetted by either the Public Works and Finance Committee or the Administrative Committee made up of members of the council. Any member of the council can pull any particular item off for separate consideration.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Your choice, Lori.
Go, Gina.
Okay, Haley,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Hey, that passes.
Thanks, Maureen.
Clicking on down to the regular agenda, staff recognition.
Yes, Your Honor, we have Chief James Fry here to introduce this one this evening.
Welcome, Chief.
Honorable Mayor and Council, tonight I would like to recognize Captain Anthony Dollinger's achievements for attending the FBI National Academy. The FBI National Academy helps prepare command officers to lead their department, their city, their community with professionalism and knowledge. During his time at the Academy, Captain Dollinger earned 18 graduate level credits to the University of Virginia and was entrenched in an environment of leadership education during that 10 weeks that he was there. I'm proud of Captain Dollinger for seeking out this excellent learning opportunity, which I was also fortunate enough to go to in 2019. Captain Dollinger graduated as a member of the 288th session of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia on December 7th, 2023. Nationally, fewer than 1% of all officers ever get to attend this. So I think that really does show the level of leadership that we're sending to that type of a training to bring back to support our community and our police department. The 288th session consisted of 198 graduating law enforcement officers and consisted of men and women from 45 states in the District of Columbia. The class included members of law enforcement agencies from 24 countries, 4 military organizations, and 6 federal civilian organizations. And the biggest thing is he sought this out. He wanted this. He wanted to continue his learning and leadership. And I think we need to recognize him for that and thank him for his service and what he's bringing back to our community.
Here.
Bet. Anthony.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I'll be brief. I just want to thank, first of all, Chief Fry for supporting me in this effort and to the city administration for letting me go for 3 months. That's a long time to be away from work. But above all, I'd like to recognize my wife, Jess. You know, she moved up. She's the real one that deserves the credit, holding down the fort for 3 months and taking it.
You're
What did they teach you there?
To be able to go and truly focus on that opportunity and really unplug from life back here. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. That was a good recognition on behalf of staff and well-deserved too. So,
And a good investment.
yes, it was an excellent investment. Next up is mayoral appointments, and there is a docket that everyone received in their packet this week with about 35 or 36 people on it. And so I'd just like to have a go at it as a slate of reappointments to the commissions.
I move that we approve the slate of commissioners.
Second.
Oh, Maureen can have it.
We're gonna go down the row here.
Okay, any discussion?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thanks
for-
for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you all for like volunteering.
Yes.
Yep, for everybody out there, it's what really helps this city run is our commissions who provide advice and counsel to the council on decisions that we make and which direction the city takes. So Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. Next up, public
We should
comment.
see if anybody's out there in the audience.
They're all reappointments, so
They're probably not.
yeah.
Okay.
So next up is the public comment, mayor's response period. And for 15 minutes, we invite members of the public to come to the podium, state their name and address, and in 3 minutes, tell us what's on their mind, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, nor pending before planning, zoning, nor the Board of Adjustment. Any takers to come speak to us tonight? All right,
Nick.
we recognize you.
Not at
No.
all.
That's not
No.
annoying. That's not
You might be the
annoying.
only person to do it, so.
Okay, my name's Nick. I'm a proud renter. I'll say it every time. I live over in the Elysian Apartments. I want to say it again. I think it'll become a bi-monthly thing. We're officially in the warmest year in the past 125,000 years. That's kind of confirmed by EU's Copernicus lab, or the Earth observation that they do over in the EU. But just really got to push that this needs to stay at the forefront of conversation. And it's not just about climate change. Climate change is definitely not everything. We're also looking at how that's going to harm humans more than humans, as well as the landscapes writ large. Something I was doing some calculations with that I shared to Kelly, but I wanted to kind of check it to everyone here, is that around like 1 pound of food waste is the CO2 equivalent of driving to to Pullman and back. So if we think about like on average, the US wastes like 350 pounds per person. But if we like lower that because
Or a day.
a year, pardon.
Just making sure.
Yeah, no, totally. So if we think of like Moscow residents maybe being a bit better and we only waste like 300 pounds a year, that's like 7.5 million trips back and forth between Pullman a year. So thinking about that's like an actionable thing that we can do is decreasing food waste, not just to compost, but also to how to feed that to humans or animals or livestock. That's an actionable thing that I know Kelly's talked about, but thinking about how the commission can activate some funds or look for funds out there. I just wanted to mention that kind of fun little stat that you can share to your friends and family.
Fun.
It's based in the EU. Yeah, maybe not fun, especially as we enter kind of the like holiday seasons, right? There's a lot of food waste that's generated from that. So thinking of ways that we can reduce that going to the landfill. And it doesn't have to just go to humans, but it can also go to our kin or our landfill or our compost, pardon. Yeah, I just wanted to share that as warmest year in the past 125,000 years. It's a big issue, really big issue. Think about it.
It is.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that. Who else would like to jump up and speak? Okay, no takers. We move along to a public hearing for 2216 South Main Street Annexation, Comprehensive Plan Land Use Designation and Zoning Designation. And the way public hearings work is I open the hearing, staff presents the relevant facts of the hearing, the applicant comes up and presents their support or additional information. During the staff's presentation, council can ask some technical questions along the way. After that, we move on to public testimony in favor, followed by public testimony in opposition, followed by neutral public testimony. After that, the applicant can step up to the podium again and provide additional information to help clarify issues that have been brought up by the public testimony. After that, the public hearing closes and the council launches into its deliberations. So with that, Mike, public hearing is open.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. So before you tonight, we have an annexation, comp plan designation, and rezone at 2216 South Main Street. Most of you will recognize this property as the westerly 2 buildings of Fountains Industrial Park. So that's the 7.98 acres highlighted in blue, center your screen. Current city limits boundary is this green dashed line. So surrounding uses, you have easterly buildings of Fountains Industrial Park. There's a church to the north, a bar, a restaurant. The ice rink is to the northwest. And then various other residential and commercial uses, Dale's Boat Service located to the west of Highway 95. An automotive detailing business located to the southwest, and then primarily agricultural property to the south and the southeast, with the South Fork of the Palouse River transecting the property in a northwesterly direction there. So the applicant's Joel Cohen, proposing 3 actions for that property. The first is annexation. The second is retaining the current comprehensive plan land use designation, which is auto urban commercial, and then rezoning the property from a combination of industrial and ag forest to the motor business zone. So just a closer view of the property. You can see the South Fork of the Palouse River located here, and then goes under Highway 95 at that location. Brings us to the current comprehensive plan land use designation. Like I mentioned before, it's auto urban commercial. Surrounding properties are also that designation, except to the east, which is industrial. Taking a look at what the comp plan states, auto urban commercial designated areas are intended to provide for commercial services and developments that are motor vehicle oriented, or those which require larger amounts of land. Should be located adjacent to existing commercial developments and along major arterials where vehicle traffic can be accommodated. And then it points to the most appropriate zoning designation, which is the motor business zone. So that brings us to the zoning configuration of the area. Primarily surrounded by motor business zone property. There is industrial to the east, and the subject property is a mixture of industrial and ag forest. Proposal upon annexation would be the motor business designation. So taking a look at what the zoning code states about the motor business zone, it's intended to provide for the location and grouping of compatible uses having similar operation as they involve enterprises which depend primarily on transient motor vehicle-based trade. And then by concentrating such uses, city intends to increase public convenience when utilizing such services, and then the regulation to allow such activities to render the maximum service. And then really just a wide variety of residential as well as commercial uses. Out of all the zones, probably the most diverse. So retail enterprises, could be eating and drinking establishments, residential uses, all the way to light manufacturing. Street network adjacent to Highway 95 provides the vehicular access to the property. There's 4 travel lanes, center turn lane with curb gutter sidewalks on both sides of the street for this segment of Highway 95. And then utilities, looking at water and sewer service. Subject property is currently on a well and septic system. And as part of the annexation, the buildings on the subject property would be required to connect to city water and sewer, which is currently located within the shared access drive to the northwest of the property. And the property is considered developable in the city's comprehensive water and sewer system plans. Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing earlier this year for the comp plan land use designation and the rezone. It occurred on November 15th, and they recommended approval with no conditions. Staff's recommendation for the council tonight is to conduct the public hearing upon the annexation, comp plan designation, and zoning designation, and upon consideration of any testimony presented, approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules. And then if the annexation ordinance is approved, approve the proposed comp plan resolution and adopt P&Z's RCS document. And if both of those items are approved, approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules and adopt P&Z's RCS document. And I'd certainly be able to stand for any questions that you had.
Mike, one of the things, and I'm the first to admit that reading through this, I'm like, wow, I haven't been to a P&Z meeting for a while. So putting that out front, but having the river cut right through there and making it motor vehicle, it seems like a lot of opportunity to pollute that section of river, and that makes me feel really squishy. Can you explain a little bit more on how that fits into the city's water and sewer plan?
Essentially just be stormwater management. And so if you're in the 100-year floodplain, then typically you're exempt from kind of detaining on site. And so all that would need to be filtered some way with a swale, but there's really no regulation against uses adjacent to a river.
And am I right that by looking at the map, and I was looking at my packet, that we actually moved boundaries, city boundaries Or is that just,
There's a little bit of skew in the boundary
Mhm.
right now, and that's just our GIS system. Those actually meet up with the
Okay.
survey, the record of survey and the current city limits boundary. So, yeah, those coincide. It's just our GIS system has it skewed a little bit one way or the other.
you?
Really?
I don't know if this is a now or later question. I noticed in the public hearing comments, it mentioned that the tract of land for the new 95 was already acquired by ITD. And so I'm trying to understand if we're looking at this as motor business, is it not official that ITD owns the land for where 95 will go? Or is that just an order of operations nuisance?
There's just a portion of the property that hasn't shown up on our parcel layer. So if you were to essentially project this line to the north, and on the survey that's attached to your packet, you can see that portion of ITD right away that they've purchased from
Okay.
this property. And so it just isn't reflected in this aerial imagery here.
Okay, thank you.
Is it common that if a well already exists, that when the property gets annexed, that they have to get a well and sewer from the city?
Typically, if you're annexed into the city, you're required to connect to city services, correct?
Okay. And is this on the floodplain?
It is.
That's what I thought.
I do have a question. Can you help me understand? Why does it need to be annexed? In why is that?
Well, the applicant had requested annexation into the city. I believe there's, and certainly you could ask the applicant that.
Yeah.
I believe that there's additional development as well as the division of the property. And so typically when there's division of the property and they're this close to city limits and city services, we want those properties annexed into the city of Moscow and connected to city services.
Okay, anything else? Drew?
Mike, just to refresh my memory, even though I was at this meeting a little while ago, across the street on the west side, Schweitzer was also annexed in that property. That's correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this time, commentary, presentation by the applicant. Just come up, name, address, and
Dave Dale, 103 North Blaine. I'm not Joel Cohen, but I can try and help speak for him. And I too worry about pollution. I feel like this is, if you look at the green line there, it's basically, he's not changing anything. It's already being used for motor business. I think it's important to point out that if somebody was polluting the river, that could already be happening. It's just happening in the county currently. So technically it would be under your oversight and ours to make sure that's not happening. And really with Schweitzer being annexed, it's just growing the city of Moscow a little bit. But the reason, and I think Shelley came up and told us last time that we had to annex it into the city was because the Fountains have owned it for a long, long time. And in order to split part of it off, it has to be annexed in. So the Fountains aren't selling all of it. They're still retaining a lot of those buildings in the purple on the right. But the two buildings on the left are the ones that Joel Cohen is buying. And in order to buy them and have an actual legal description that's enforceable, we'd have to annex into the city.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, if that's
Sure.
okay. Is it the have to because of the rules that govern county lot divisions that, okay,
Pretty much.
okay.
So hopefully
there's
it's good for
restrictions.
tax revenue for the city.
Got it.
And really, I mean, your water treatment center is actually right on that blue line. So you're already right there. So it's going to be pretty cost effective for Joel to hopefully add city services shortly after this. And looks like essentially the city of Moscow is just growing a little bit closer to Lewiston.
Okay,
Lack of a better analogy, I guess a little bit closer to
That
Schweitzer.
counts.
Well, I'll slow down a little bit. Let's scare everybody.
Genesee first, Genesee.
There's a little gap there.
okay, don't go away. You get a chance to speak again here in a minute, perhaps.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, public testimony in favor of the application.
I would be remiss if I didn't tell you I was in favor of the application. We got right down to where we
First
thought we
the
were.
name, Shelley.
I'm Shelley Bennett and I live at 2279 Mosher Street in Moscow. Yeah,
There you go.
sorry, you knew who I was, but
Sure, but
the county has a rule that you can't divide property. It has a rule that you can't divide property if it's in the floodway. And this is in the floodway. And so that we had to come through this process. So now the city gets to annex it and put utilities there, and it's all for the good of the town, I believe. So do you have any questions for me?
one quick question,
Okay.
and it doesn't have to do with the floodplain. It's what I was asking Haley, so if anyone wonders why we're
Yeah.
conspiring, we're
Conspiring.
conspiring.
Looking sideways.
I just can't tell. I'm just curious, the little splotches of white underneath the buildings, are those houses? Is it rocks? Do you know what I'm talking about?
In behind the buildings,
Mhm.
that's miscellaneous stuff, and there's a little house
Okay.
that's just like a little shed house in the back.
Okay.
It's just miscellaneous stuff.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was, but I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley.
You bet. Thank you.
Further testimony in favor? Okay, testimony in opposition. Nobody's twitching. Testimony of a general nature. Okay. Well, I'm not sure would the applicant like to make a rebuttal on anything
Nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
that was said? Agree with Shelley, whatever.
Nigel.
Okay, this time we close the public hearing and council deliberate away.
I have a context question, and I don't know if Bill or Mike know the why behind the county rules about not being able to subdivide on the floodplain, and if it's an old thing or a newer rule. I understood that there are restrictions about size subdivisions within the county. I just didn't know that floodplain was one of the things that triggered that limitation.
They do have more stringent floodplain regulations than we do in the city. But typically, if you divide a property, you're required to go through the subdivision plat process. They don't have a lot division process. And so anytime you're going through a subdivision plat, typically if it's this close to the city, the county and the city have agreed that you should annex into the city, especially when city services are right there.
And related question, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay.
Sure.
Our system is designed such that when people are tying into when we annex and people tie into our city utilities, the cost is equally shared for tying into existing infrastructure. Is that correct? Or is it solely on the applicant to like get the hose turned into the
Connection.
spigot?
There's general facilities charges that are
Okay.
required for each connection. That's just your buy-in to the system, essentially.
Groovy. Okay, thank you.
What happens to their old sewer?
And water well.
It's typically handled through DEQ as far as the well and the septic system, the health department. Usually you vacate those in some fashion. But in certain circumstances, they still allow some type of well connectivity. It just depends.
I just wondered because of the old septic by the by the river seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't have any comment.
So we have 3 separate actions.
I'll make a
involved.
motion.
Thank you.
I move we approve the annexation ordinance under the suspension of the rule requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Okay, that one passes and we're up to ordinance 2023-10. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing that land described in section 2 of this ordinance be annexed to the City of Moscow, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after passage, approval, and publication according to law. Okay. That's part one.
Okay, I move that we approve the proposed comprehensive land use designation resolution and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, Sandra,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Okay, so there's 2023-11. Nope.
Resolution.
Oh, okay, that's easy then. Dang. Jumped the gun. Okay, and then we get to the rezone.
Okay.
You're on a roll.
Yeah.
I'm a little tired too. I move that we approve the, the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary. And adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission's reason statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Who did that?
You
Thank you.
you did one, I did two.
Okay. Julia,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
and Gina.
Aye.
Okay, this is 2023-11. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the rezoning of a 7.98 acre property described in Section 2 of this ordinance from agriculture forestry AF and industrial I to motor business MB, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. There we go. So that's pretty much it there. So great. It is done. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I feel like you need like a firework thing.
Confetti.
Yeah.
Silly string.
Where is it?
I can
Mike.
come with confetti for your own stuff.
Okay.
But it's not. Sorry. I was hoping it looked like osmosis, but apparently not.
Okay, now our entire audience.
You as well.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the entire audience.
Yeah, after the mass exodus,
Still faithful here.
we appreciate those of you who are sticking it out.
It's true.
So next up is the annual city limits ordinance that we get to enjoy each and every year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't want to stick around. Hear what I had to say. This item is somewhat of a formality, but an important required one, and that state law requires that anytime a taxing district adjusts their boundary, we need to prepare and file a legal description and map of that new boundary by the 10th of January each year. In this case, as is probably very fresh in your mind, we had one annexation this year.
Can you recap?
When
a
that
bit?
happened. When that happened.
It did expand our city limits area or boundary by it added about 8 acres to the city, bringing us to a total of 4,759 acres. And so we have prepared and included in your packet an ordinance and map reflecting that change, and do recommend that you approve that ordinance to adopt the new boundary under suspension of the rules, requiring the 3 separate readings, and that it be read and by title and published by summary. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, unless there are questions, I move we approve the ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, or do I want 2 under suspension of the rules? And that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Thank goodness you guys did that, because I just took a sneaky peek and the actual legal description runs into 10 pages.
Just scheming.
It's a big one. Okay. Any discussion? Thankfully not. Sandra.
Aye.
Julia. Maureen.
Aye.
Gina. Drew.
Aye.
And Haley. Very good. Okay, this is ordinance number 12, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. 2023-12. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2023-01 of the city of Moscow, Idaho, establishing and declaring in this ordinance the corporate limits of the city of Moscow, Latah County, Idaho, in accordance with the provision of the laws of the state of Idaho relating to the establishment of the boundaries and the annexation of adjacent and contiguous territory, providing for appeal of any other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing a severance and savings clause, and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Sweet.
Thanks, Cody.
So, let's see. Okay, next up is benefit consulting agreement. Bill.
Thank you, Your Honor. So for approximately the last 18 years, city has used the Murray Group as our consultant for health benefits for city employees. We did decide it was time for us to go back out and issue a new statement of qualifications to reevaluate those services. So that was conducted in September of this year. We had 7 firms that submitted in response to that. We had a review committee that involved a human resource director, finance director, as well as the chair of our employee advisory committee and myself, who went through those, selected 3 for interviews, which occurred just about a month ago. And then out of that, the committee is recommending selection of Gallagher to provide those services for us moving forward. So those include helping the city maintain compliance with benefit employment laws surrounding a bunch of acronyms. I won't read off to you. It's in the packet there. But also it just provides services for our benefit planning design, vendor management administration, day-to-day administrative issues between us and our insurance provider, as well as vendor and management administration and COBRA administration and actuarial services. So this agreement is approximately $10,000 less than what we were previously paying for those services. And we have a number 3 items in the packet. We both the agreement with the Gallagher Benefit Services Consulting for those services, the approval of broker of record letter, as well as acceptance of Peak One's fee schedule for COBRA administration. Murray provided that service previously. And so Peak One is able to provide that at a slightly reduced cost than what we're previously paying. We had the contract in the packet for the committee's review at the last meeting, but we're awaiting any final comments from Gallagher. They only had changes to 3 minor areas. One, when it relates to compensation. We did note that they are entitled to receive benefits on voluntary benefit programs that are offered. They get a commission service fee for that. So we included that as part of the compensation. And then they also just updated the insurance to reflect their current coverage, which was in excess of what we were requiring. And then some minor modifications to limiting their liability related to the employee navigator that is a third-party provided system. So with that, we're very comfortable with the agreement as it is now drafted, and I'm here for your approval on those 3 items.
Questions?
Where are they out of, Bill?
So we'll be serviced out of, so Gallagher's a international firm. We'll be serviced out of the Spokane office.
Thank you.
Is the 3-year term in the contract on par with what we were seeing with Murray? I'm trying to remember how long we would previously been locked in with Murray for.
Well, we didn't really have a long-term agreement. It was just an agreement that was renewed every year.
Okay.
So it didn't actually have a specified term. So there were a number of defects with the agreement with Murray. It did lack details of scope of services that were provided. It was a 1-sentence description of what they were going to provide. And we really just had an agreement that was renewed every year. One of the features was the Murray agreement was just fixed as a percentage of our premium. So we're shifting to a fixed rate here just to make sure that that's the case. And so there are a few differences between what we had in the Murray group and this one. So this is styled much more similar to our professional service agreement for any other similar type professional service we'd be receiving.
So by differences, you mean clarifications or improvements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's. Yep.
Structure, detail, scope of services, everything mapped out.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a follow-up, or I guess point of clarification. This changes absolutely nothing about the benefits that we are offering our employees that they have since entered into during open enrollment for this next year. Is that correct?
Correct. The only thing that there'll be a very, very minor change is that we'll actually see our employees who have dependents that are paying for the coverage will see their premiums decrease slightly because the Murray Group fee was built into their premiums, and then Regents was writing the check to the Murray Group providing those services. I don't think it's an uncommon, but it's not our preferred arrangement of service between the insurance carrier and the vendor. So as those fees will no longer be embedded in the rates, they'll be backed out. So those that have dependents will see a slight reduction at the most. Full family coverage would maybe be reduced by $20 a month for employee. So
We'll
it's
take it.
yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, there's two things that we get out of this. One, it's less expensive, and two, families don't pay as much. I mean, how can we say no to that?
So, and just to follow up, so nothing changes on
Yeah.
our policy or our coverage today. We won't be probably in a position to rebid our coverage for this next renewal that comes up in June, essentially. But probably shortly thereafter, we will probably be taking our services out to bid just to evaluate the market. We've been, again, with Regents for that 20 plus years as well. They provide us great service, but I think it's time for us to also see what else is out there and might be
A lot in the industry has changed since 2000, 2020. Mr. Mayor, I've got one kudos I'd like to give before I lay a motion on the table. Huge kudos to Bill and the crew and everyone who listened in, and Bonnie for doing this with a fine tooth comb, because I'm sure this is not always a fun exercise. So thank you for yeoman's work, right?
Yes.
And with that, unless anyone else has comments, Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the Gallagher Benefit Services Consulting Agreement broker of record letter and Peak One fee schedule to include Cobra administration.
Second.
And Maureen seconds. Further discussion? Cool. Haley,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Rue,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Okay, very good. That takes us right round to reports. So let's start with you, Maureen, for your last report.
Okay, so I went to the SEC meeting, and Nick, our buddy, who comes to visit us, also came and gave a great spiel to the SEC about what he felt passionate about, and we appreciated that in his efforts to talk and organize students around this thing. We also got a feedback on the Water Summit. We spent some time on that. We spent a lot of time talking about future meetings, and one of the big topics that came up was the water and what we're doing with that. And also, I will say that one of the first people that are going to come is the people from the Recycling Center and talk about recycling to the SEC. So that was SEC. I will also say that I went to the farmer's market, and it was kind of wrapping up the year. And we welcome Amanda back when she comes back in January. And they're talking there about making sure that both in SEC and in the farmer's market, the first thing we have to do in January is look at leadership and potentially some new openings for vendors on the commission. And I also attended the city holiday party, which was nice and always very festive, and people love it. And you can find some really ugly sweaters.
Wait, but was there an ugly sweater party, or was it just people in ugly sweaters?
Just people in a.
No awards given out.
I love it.
Okay.
Okay, Gina.
I think the only thing I did in the last 2 weeks was that well, there are a couple of things. I did get to judge the, what is it? Light of the Season?
Yep.
Parade. And aside from it being, I don't know, sub-zero, it was so cold and it was windy. There were some really cool floats. And I have to say, even the sheriff had a cool float, and he turned the lights on for me. It was really exciting. I have to say that there was one, and I think they were a non-contestant, but they had goats and a pony and all kinds of cool stuff. It was awesome. The library had a bicycle that was all lit up and everything, and that was fun. I also had every intention to go to the, and she's laughing because she's Sandra was going to be my date to the holiday party. I didn't have an ugly sweater on, but I was willing to tolerate them. And I believe Leadership Moscow ran over the top of that. And so I
stood her up.
She did. And I sobbed a little bit, and then I went back to work. So that's all I have.
Okay, Julia.
Well, this past week, I had affordable housing meeting with the Latah County Commissioners who are discussing trying to spin off a housing commission in the area, which would then be a recipient for grant money and things like that. And it has to be its own governmental entity, though. It won't be part of the county. It won't be part of the city. It's got to be its own thing, kind of like the highway district. So that was interesting. We also had Arts Commission this week, and we discussed kind of the year in review and all the changes with the arts department. And the good news was they are putting out a request for proposals for the mural on the water building. And it's, to me, it's at least well paid in terms of compensating the artists, which I, as a mother of an artist, I always think it's good to pay the artists. And then we had Transportation Commission. And we spent a lot of time talking about how we're going to set goals for the next year and working on planning and integrating the Transportation Commission into the long-term plans for the city. So.
Okay, Sandra.
All right. I have happy news, Alternative Giving Market of the Palouse. We had our big event this last week, but it just came to an end on Friday, and there's still a few calculations to be made, but at least $47,000 for our community, which isn't a record, but we were pretty happy with that because everyone came out very supportive. Let's see, Light of the Night, I have to say, the floats were awesome, but it's the warmest Light of the Night parade I've ever been to.
Oh, man.
I had a gimpy knee, so I didn't get to march, which is the first time in probably a decade, but the mayor was so kind to let me hang out with him. And I had a really great time watching everything. So, but yeah, I was actually, wow, this is warm. I was not frozen. So go figure. Let's see what else I have. Let's see. We had Victorian Christmas at the McConnell Mansion this past Saturday, and with over 700 cookies made, they were all gone.
No.
Did I see you? Yes, I did. I thought so. Yep. It was fun and crowded and very warm. I sat on the porch a lot because it was so warm in there. It's also Winter Market. A very nice crowd in there, a lot of different things at the 1912 Center. So it was good to see that and to take some people around and show off the 1912 Center. Did not have a 1912 meeting, but I did a little touring for folks. So that was good. Let's see, Leadership Moscow, which is, I always really enjoy that. We were there with Haley and with Bryce and spent an hour and a half with them and just had really good conversation, which was, it was just really enjoyable. And then, hold on, I have more. Let's see. No URA last week, but it's coming up this week. And I talked to students at Palouse Prairie Charter School about the importance of volunteering about a week ago and had a great time with that. So I think that's it for my week and a half.
Drew.
Besides trying to get a clean bill of health,
Yay.
yeah, I Parks and Rec met last week. Good, they kind of closing things out for the year, but they actually do have these, and I brought them as examples. These nice little pamphlets. One's a calendar, and then one just tells about other things they do, so you can pick them up.
Who was that?
Parks and Rec.
Thanks. Sorry.
Yep. And so they have a calendar one that tells about all the events that happen through the year, something that that commission's been working on, and Greg kind of put into action. So really happy about that for people to have. Also went to the holiday party. It's great to meet people I haven't met with city staff before. I did not wear an ugly sweater, but I wish I would have.
We will next year.
I will have it next year in hand. And then other than that, that's I coached a basketball game for Parks and Rec on Saturday morning. So yeah, and we won. And we're in first place, but no one's counting. So, except for me.
We don't actually keep score.
We don't actually keep score, but I was in my head.
What's the team name? But what's the team name? Because the kids come up with the best team names.
Golden Eagles. Sometimes it's sometimes black and golden eagles because that's the jerseys they rotate.
Yeah.
So sometimes the black eagles. Today was the gold. Last time it was the golden eagles. So yeah, it was fun.
Haley.
Let me look. My Pathways meeting was canceled because of lack of quorum. This is always my meeting heavy week. I've got Smart Transit on Wednesday and the Human Rights Commission meeting tomorrow. Had a lot of fun at Leadership Moscow, got some good book recommendations from those folks. And Light Up the Night Parade was fantastic. There was an email that went around to staff, but for our avid viewers at home, there was a medical emergency at CASA as our ambulance was coming through right ahead of Santa. And I just have to commend both the Parks and Rec team, our volunteer EMTs who handled it with grace and poise, and our volunteers, our staffers who were crowd control.
And you can't beat a 20-second response time.
Absolutely not. And it was kind of a moment. It was a good thing that they didn't have their lights on until they needed to have their lights on.
Yeah.
So kudos. And actually, Dan Ewart was one of the folks who helped respond, hopped out of the ambulance. And that's when we realized it was go time. So big kudos to all of our emergency response team. And then I attended bingo last week. 1912 Center hosts bingo once a month. And it was a fundraiser for the Palouse Divide Nordic Ski Club, which was super fun. So highly recommend going to bingo with me next time. You win real money. I see Nick there with their friends and it's a good time. So highly recommend. I think it's usually the third Thursday of the month at the 1912 Center. And I just want to say for Maureen's last full meeting, thank you for 4 years of service and for the 2 years of getting to learn from you and work alongside you. So, but you have to be here on the 2nd, right?
I do.
Good. Okay. So
Don't say goodbye yet.
Yeah, this is it. Damn right.
Last regular meeting in any case.
yeah. Oh, and then monthly breakfast, which was great with the crew
Oh, yeah.
on campus. So Mr. Mayor, back to you.
Okay, for me, we had the new fire engine, Engine 20 roll-in at Station 2, and the graduation for the fire graduates and the MPs. So we had the graduation ceremony along with a visitor from Germany
That was really cool.
who brought in a couple of badges that went to the top grade getters in the academy. And so that was unexpected and very pleasurable and good times. But Engine 20 now in Station 2, waiting to be refitted out at the shop for all the Moscow peculiar things like lights and radios and things like that. But it's here. Also had a visit from Admiral Couture from the U.S. Navy in charge of all the ROTC programs. So she came through and we had a lovely chat about all manner of ROTC goings on in town and the participation of ROTC folks and larger city life. She sharp lady, excellent admiral. Also, the Light Up the Season parade. I enjoyed being judgmental about the floats. Very fun, and it's such an enjoyable event, and just great. Everybody gets out and does a good job with it. So kudos all around. Let's see, the airport. The airport is now Schweitzer Field at the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport. So the field designation went to Schweitzer because of their contributions to assisting with the local match on the airport. So $2 million goes a long ways into getting a lot more money from the feds. So thanks to the Schweitzers for that. Also, the load factors continue to be very good for our flights to Seattle, about 75% full, and that's just paying customers, doesn't count deadheading crew, nor does it count those who are cashing in miles just to be on an airplane.
Wow.
So 75%. The Boise flight is at 71%. So both of them are going concerns and doing really, really well. So we look forward to getting the airport open and increasing service as soon as more pilots and airplanes are available to provide that service. I was also at Leadership Moscow. I followed you guys up. I'm happy to say they were all still awake, all still with us. So very chipper. That was good. And the employee lunch with the ugly sweater contest and things like that, always a delight. And we are so grateful for the quality of employees that we have in this town. They do such an excellent job all the way around and really stretch the taxpayer dollar to the max. So good on them.
Can I just say one?
Yeah, of course you can.
You know, the other thing I like about that is that the city actually spends a lot of energy trying to build community with respect to the employees and to honor the employees. And I think it makes it a warmer more collegial place to work. And so, I mean, I think it's nice that we have that, you know, they came, but the answer is I think the city really puts an emphasis on that. And I think it pays off. We've got really good staff.
It's important for culture. For sure. Yeah, it's great.
It is.
Nothing from staff this evening.
Step. Okay. Is there a unanimity for adjournment?
Yes.
Sounds like it. So we're adjourned.